So I know that you have already begun your teacher training, so you're aware of the basic admin / logistics around Zoom lessons. So keeping your mics on mute. If you do need to leave at any point, of course, you can just switch your video off. If you do need to say something, raise your hand. I have left, the structure of the lesson is 60 minutes theory, 60 minutes sort of teaching, and then the last 30 minutes I've left for sharing experience, discussion, questions, and so we'll have that section towards the end of our lesson. But I would love this to be engaging as possible, so I've left moments in between each section where I'd love you to share. So if you do have an absolutely burning question, do raise your hand. Only the prerequisite is that, it can't wait to the end, because I'm trying to find the balance. I've done a couple of these sessions and I'm trying to find the balance in between keeping the structure, but then also trying to be as engaging as possible and not too lecture-y, if that makes any sense. So I am open to raised hands is what I'm saying essentially. And so I'd love, if you haven't already, to have a notebook at hand, pencils, pencil crayons. We have a little journaling exercise that we'll move through. So if you do have pastels or chalks or anything like that at hand, please do use them in the journaling prompt. I'd like us to use that section to be as creative and childlike and playful as possible. So we're going to move into the session, and to begin, we're going to take a few minutes to carve out the foundation for the session ahead. And so we're all coming from, may I ask, is there anyone, so are we all from South Africa? If you're from South Africa, you can just, if you're taking this call in South Africa, you can just physically put up your hand. Okay, so great. That's almost everyone, I think. Yes. Okay, so we're most likely in different neighborhoods, different spaces. And for that reason, the nature of a meditation or a mindfulness session is often more effective, I feel, because we feed off the energy of the group, right? And it is, because it is a spiritual teaching, you are tuning into that. But because we're taking this to a digital sphere, it's different. It's not necessarily better or weaker, it's just different. And so in order to connect, we're going to take these few minutes now. So I'd like you to find a comfortable position, and you can just move out your shoulders. And again, just taking the next few minutes to breathe, step into the session. And so we're all coming from, and we can move in forward in the opposite direction. Whether we were having a conversation with someone, reading an article, cooking dinner, going for a walk, we're all coming from completely different spaces. And the next few minutes serves the purpose of connecting both to our breath, to ourselves, and to each other. Even though we're in different spaces, we're connecting virtually. So you can rest your hands on your knees, on your legs, relax down your shoulders, close down your eyes. Lengthen your spine. Tuck your chin ever so slightly in towards your chest, elongating the back of your neck. Relaxing your face. Releasing any tension in your face. Feeling a softness on your crown. Feeling a softness in your eyes and around your eyelids. A release of tension in your jaw. Feeling a calmness fall over your body. Putting aside any external thoughts. Whatever it was you were thinking before you stepped into the session, whatever it was that you were doing, is no longer what you're doing. And so we're putting that aside and coming into your body, into the session. We're going to take 5 gentle breaths, inhaling and exhaling both through our nose. Inhaling, Feeling your chest rise. Exhale, release through your nose. And your exhalations can be somewhat audible. The idea is to release. 4 more breaths. Inhaling. Exhale, release through your nose. And as you move through to the 5th breath, I'd like you to make your exhale slightly more audible than the previous. Inhaling, deep breath, feeling the shoulders rise up, chest expand, inviting fresh oxygen into your lungs. Exhale. As you exhale, you can feel the tension around your shoulders melt, the tension at the back of your neck, at the back of your head release. 2 more breaths, inhaling. Exhale through your nose. One last breath, nice and tall, breathing all the way to the top of your breath, filling your lungs. Exhale. Lengthening your spine, opening your shoulders. And I'd like us to set an intention for our session ahead. Set an intention of focus and presence. To remain present throughout the next 70 minutes. And of course, our minds may wander, but to bring it back to what we're doing now, to make a commitment to this very present. Setting that intention of presence. Inhaling. And as you exhale, imagining that intention to be solidified. You can slowly open your eyes. And I would like us to pick up our pens and notebooks. And we're going to move into the initiating prompts for our session today. And so we have 3 prompts, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes, and I will check in, and I'd like you to type in the text box when you finish. There is no, I'm happy to give you more time, so don't feel rushed. The first prompt is, what makes you feel calm? What makes you feel relaxed? And they don't necessarily have to be words or sentences. They can be colors, textures, visuals. You can draw little sketches. It can be as abstract. It could be words that don't necessarily relate to meditation. You're opening this, it's almost as if you're taking the cap off the top of your head, and you're just allowing your imagination to open up to what makes you feel content, what makes you feel calm. I will be putting the prompts in the text, in the chat. If you have completed the prompt, I'd like you just to put a full stop or any sort of symbol in the message or the text, so I know that you're ready. Okay. So I have about 12 out of 16 participants who have said they are ready. So if you haven't, please continue. I will just explain what we're going to be moving into now. So we're going to be moving into an introduction circle. So just a very brief, I'd like to get to know you because we are going to be spending the next 4 sessions together over the next month. So you can start with your name, why you're doing this course, and then you can share what it is that makes you feel calm, what is it that makes you feel content, colors, textures, drawings, songs, exactly what you've written if you'd like. Okay, just to get a little bit about you. If you feel that you'd like to share something else, something that I haven't said, please feel free to do this. Yeah, you can invite a bit of playfulness into this introduction circle. And may I ask if there's anyone who would like to go first? You can just raise your hand if you're happy to initiate the opening circle and then introduction circle. Okay, excellent. Alice, please take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alice. And what was it again? Sorry, my prompt, whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly, thank you for saying that. It is what I said. It can be your name. It can be where you're from, why you're doing this. It can be the journal prompt, but also whatever comes to mind, just keeping it within about a minute.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. From Zambia, currently in Cape Town. The prompt reminded me of something that actually has been calming me recently, and I haven't really thought about it, but I don't know if you guys know India Ari, and I used to listen to her a lot and then I stopped, but there's a song that she put out. I think it's actually quite old, but it's called I Am the Light, or I Am Light, actually. It's called I Am Light, and I really love that song. So it's become my new like morning, getting ready, brushing teeth in the midst of the chaos of my 2 kids at home. So yeah, that's me.
Yes, Alice, thank you. Okay, so if we can do 3 raised hands, if that's okay, so that we can just go, we try to make this like a really nice and smooth, if that's possible. So unless I'm just going to go for it and I'm going to, yes, Nicole. Okay, so I'm going to go Nicole, Sinead, and then Belinda.
Hi. So something that really settles me, especially now that like with COVID and things, I have like this busy road in front of me and then ocean, but I can never hear the ocean. So at night, it's like super still and super calm because everyone has to be indoors. And then I can hear like the rolling of the waves, and it's just amazing with like standing and there's like a breeze and you can see the stars. It's cloud cover. It's beautiful. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had the craziest thunderstorm in the midst of our meditation. So it was quite nice to like get in my own head, and I couldn't really hear you. I could just hear your calming voice. Yeah, I've had quite an anxious and stressful week, so it's quite nice to be back on my yoga mat, and that is sort of what calms me. And yeah, my name's Sinead.
Thanks, Sinead. Belinda.
Hey, Belinda, and we have this mountain kind of on our back, if you want to call it that. And like this morning, I woke up and our entire room was literally orange. So I ran out, and the sunrise was just incredible. And this mountain just has this way of coming to life. In the evenings, it goes completely pink, and it's really influenced by the weather conditions, but it has this magic about it, and just the way that it changes, and just how it almost adapts to the weather, and whether it's like covered in mist or in clouds, and the way that it goes green when it's rainy. It's just incredible. It's definitely got a life of its own. So it's such a calming effect. So happy able to look at that and just to take that in. So yeah, I love that.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Amy.
Hello, my name's Amy Greer and I'm from Paarl. And one of the things that's always been extremely calming for me is water, whether it's just taking a shower or jumping to the swimming pool. Or one of my favorite things to do is there's a mountain above my house, and then they have like 3 dams there, so you can hike up. And I've always felt like that's an extremely calming thing for me, is just to like submerge myself like in water, and then I just feel like it clears my mind and kind of like takes away my anxieties. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt. One of my favorite things to do is to sing and actually play music, guitar, and take songs that I find some emotional connection with and sound soothing to try and do a cover of, or do my best to do a cover of, and find that very, very calming, as well as my dog. I like to just watch her doing whatever she's doing and try to understand why she's doing something, basically.
Thanks, Matt. Marley.
Hi, I'm Marley. I'm from Cape Town. 2 things that really calms me is nature. I mean, it's very predictable, but just being out in nature, walking, the sound and smell of rain. And then, yeah, I love my cats when they purr. If I feel anxious, I just put my head on their little bodies, and I just hear that that noise. I think the frequency, something about it, that immediately calms me. It's one of my favorite sounds ever.
Thanks, Marley. Elaine.
Hi, I'm Elaine from Johannesburg. My things are all very nature related, but the main thing is silence. So I always just need a lot of silence, and just it's the thing that really calms me down, and preferably silence and nature. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ari. Ari, your mic is off.
There we go. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hi, Monique. I'm Ari. Also from Cape Town. I suppose the thing that calms me the most is also nature. It just has a very calming effect. I grew up on the sort of Newland side of Table Mountain amongst the trees. So the sound of the wind rushing through the trees, it's like sort of creaking as they sway in the wind. It really has a calming effect. It's nostalgic for me as well. That's it.
Thank you. Ruan.
Hi, Ruan from Durbanville. It's kind of a strange one, because I kind of work in a, can you hear me? You guys went quiet suddenly. I work in a very, very quiet room most of the time because I do sound and stuff. So it's odd going in there, and you would think that would be peaceful, but it actually makes your mind a lot louder. So for me, something that calms me down is actually just getting out of that room and going outside. And I started with the words outside, and then the sensations came up, and it was like walking by the sea, or early mornings, waking up before the sunrise, and then sunsets, and like the sound of the wind in the forest, or the sound of the waves by the ocean. Those are the kinds of sounds and things that calm me down, instead of just dead silence and then like loud music playing in my face. So yeah, That's me.
Thanks, Ron. Before we move on to the last few participants who I'd like to share with as well, just a reminder that although it is quite a big group and we are all sharing, and it's so easy for your mind to go elsewhere, attention-wise, just totally based on case studies, after 6-8 minutes, your focus, you're gone. So just to keep in mind that listen to what the other participants are saying, and you can even write down notes if you like. Just look at this introduction circle as the beginning of your theory, the beginning of your practice. So, Clara.
Hi, I'm Clara. I used to live in South Africa and now I'm back in Denmark, my home country. I was running a bit late, and so the first thing that popped into my mind when I read the question was this room, or like this Zoom call. But otherwise, I think many things calms me down. That's already been said. But one of the things I wrote were candles. So I just lighted a few just now.
Thanks, Clara. And then Michaela, am I saying your name correctly? Michaela?
Yes. Yes, thanks, Katie. I know it's got work spelling.
Michaela, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know if it's me, but there seems to be an echo on your side. So I can't hear you. I'm not sure how that, does anyone know why that's happening or how we can prevent that from happening?
Maybe you should put her video off. Sometimes that helps.
Okay, we can try that. The only time I know that that's happened is when one participant has 2 devices connected. So sometimes if you have your laptop and your phone, there can be an echo. So we can just try that again. Sorry about that, Michaela.
Let me put it away. Let's see if it helps. Is it better now?
It isn't. What I might suggest, and I'm sorry to do this, we can come back. But if you could, could I ask you to write it, please? Because I want you to share, but I also want us to hear what you're saying at the same time. So if you can write it in the text, and we can read it. If that's okay. Thank you so much. And Dee, I believe you have not.
Hi, I'm Dee. So I live in the countryside, so I'm surrounded by beauty all the time. I really am. I'm very fortunate. But I think the thing that really calms me down is rain. I love it when it rains. Like any speed, hard, light. I just love the rain. And I love classical music. I like listening to Bach. That calms me down a lot as well. And yeah, anything green. That's it.
Thanks, Dee. So Rowan, I see you still have your hand raised. If you can unraise your hand. And then Elaine, I think, you've already gone, hey? Yeah. And then so Annalise. Thank you. Sorry, guys. There are lots of faces on the screen. So I'm like, don't forget anyone. Okay.
I hope my connection is going to play with. So what calms me down, the first thing that really calms me down in the morning when I open my front door is that first, like, fresh air. It's like, it feels like I can just go, and I don't know why, but it's like that every time I open that door. And then the other thing that really calms me down is a clean, clutter-free space. Like that is like that's really calming to me. Or shall I say, if the space is not like that, then it's like gets to me. Like, and my place isn't always like tidy. I've got a very messy husband and daughter, so like really gets to me. And then also silence, and when I go for a walk, and I think it's all the same, the sounds of nature, silence. Yeah, I don't like a lot of noise. That's it.
Annalise, thank you so much. And Miriam, I know your video is off, but I don't think we've heard from you.
Hi, my internet's a bit unstable, so I'm keeping my video off.
Okay, cool.
But I just realized that as I was going through, like reflecting on this question, that I tend to actually use all my 5 senses to feel calm. So for a sense of sound, what soothes me or what calms me down is words that, such as I'm safe, I'm okay, this too shall pass. So kind of just soothing words or phrases that keeps me calm. And in terms of visual, being out in nature and also soft pastel colors, that also keeps me very calm. And in terms of sounds, meditative sounds, guided meditation, soothing music, and sometimes background music or background noise tends to, when my mind is racing a lot, if I focus on something else like people talking in a distance, that tends to calm me down and brings me in the present. And in terms of using my sense of touch, things that calm me down would be like a hug, or hand on my belly and just breathing and feeling it go up and down, and taking naps, and also body movement. Thank you.
Thanks, Miriam. Now, may I ask if, I believe everyone's gone apart from Michaela, who's typed in the chat. Am I correct in saying so? Laura, of course, and Laura, and that's exactly who's going next. Please, Laura.
Hi. So I'm Lara, and what calms me down is just being in nature, especially on the beach, and just having my feet in the water and listening to the waves coming in and out. Tuning forks. I love a good tuning fork. Tea, and also a clean environment, a tidy area. I'm not the tidiest of people. I'm very much a clutterbug, but when it comes to being focused and things, I need to declutter, and just everything gets pushed right off the table just so I can focus. It's that whole movie scene where just everything goes quah, and here we are. We're gonna focus and we're gonna just connect in the space. That's
Laura. Yeah, thank you so much. So then I'm going to read what Michaela's typed in the chat, and I think some people have already read it. So Michaela says, thank you, Michaela. The ocean is majestic to me. I cannot wait to live near it. We have just had a huge thunderstorm here and I love them. It makes me calm and sleepy. My partner and I have 2 dogs. Oh no. My partner and 2 dogs going for a walk near the river is my happy and content place. And of course, yoga in capital letters. Okay, Michaela, thank you so much for typing in. And I'm sorry that you weren't able to share verbally, because that is such an expression, especially in an introduction circle. So thank you for being patient with the connection. So thank you for being patient in this introduction circle. In hindsight, what I might do for our future sessions is split. So say the first half of the alphabet goes in the beginning and the second half of the alphabet during our break, 45 minutes into the session, just to, I know we are practicing mindfulness. I know that we are learning about the practice of meditation, but baby steps first, of course, because yeah, baby steps. So thank you for showing up for the session. I think we've almost got a full participant attendance today. Thank you for connecting with Wellness Connection. Thank you for, in the grander scheme and how Wellness Connection found me. We're all part of this greater web, and me being able to teach this is because you've made the decision on showing up here tonight. So thank you. The words they can't possibly express what I feel. And I just hope that it is, from the little bit that those words can hold, I hope that you receive it. My objective for the next session, the next few sessions that we'll share together, is making mindfulness and meditation accessible. I am in no way a master. I have been practicing, yes, I did my teacher training 6 years ago, and I am as much of a learner as I was 6 years ago. My goal is exactly that, to show how it can be integrative, because when I first did my yoga teacher training, meditation felt so foreign for me. And also I had no idea what mindfulness was. And you don't even touch on that in most traditional yoga teacher trainings. And that's what my sessions will hopefully offer you, is a basic understanding. And it is just that, an introduction into these two modalities. Because as much as these two are sacred practices, and the weight that word holds, the word sacred, it is so precious. And sometimes we can separate ourselves from that preciousness or that sacredness, because we feel that it can sometimes be on the opposite end of color, vibrancy, and playfulness. But really, they are on that same spectrum, so much more accessible. I've just gotten a notification to say that my internet is unstable. Did I break at all in the last minute or two? Okay, so what I'm going to ask is, if at any point you lose me, can you just type, let's just say a full stop in the text, so I know that when to stop if there's a break in one of my sentences. Okay, so the structure that we will follow out now over the next 45 minutes is, I'll be responding to a what, a why, and a how. So what is meditation? Why do we want to learn about it? Why is it important? And how? How do we begin this practice? How do we integrate meditation into our lives? There's this understanding that in order to dive into and to explore meditation, we need to carve out the time and that foundation. And absolutely, yes, we can. But it is being with totally reasonable or realistic. We don't necessarily have 60 to 90 minutes every single day. So the question is, how do we make it a part of our modern lives and then slowly build up to a more substantial practice? So what is meditation? You will find various different definitions for it. You'll find different perspectives, opinions, but essentially meditation it's a mental practice. It's a mental practice that brings about emotional stability, that brings about clarity, and a sense of stability, a sense of calm. And that is when I was researching this course a couple of months ago, I just opened up all the tabs and kind of looked at the different definitions. And as diverse as the definitions were, the basic principle was that it is a mental practice. And why do we want to practice meditation? In answering this question, may I ask, have we touched on yoga anatomy yet, or yoga physiology? Have we touched on the ANS, the autonomic nervous system? Okay, brilliant. So the autonomic system, we know, is the parasympathetic system and the sympathetic system, and what these two systems do and what they do in the body. I'm getting a yes. Am I getting a yes? No. I'm gonna establish. Okay, brilliant. There, Marley, thank you. I'm gonna go for it. So the autonomic nervous system is what manages the digestion, our sleep, our blood circulation, our respiratory rate, our sexual arousal. It's the let's say the headquarters of our bodies. That was what our autonomic nervous system does. And it's split into two, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. In simple terms, the parasympathetic system is your rest and digest. So this is self-explanatory, as it is in the name. It's the system that's activated when we're sleeping, when we're napping, when we're relaxing, and when our food has digested, and the process of our food being digested. So you know that mag is vol oortjies toe, that has a biological foundation. When your body has taken in food, when you've just eaten, your body's like, wait, hold up, like I'm just gonna do my thing. And it's as if And that blows your mind if you think about the rest and digest, because that means that when you're digesting, you're activating the same system as when you're sleeping. So this kind of opens up your mind for when you're eating. And we'll touch on it a little bit in our second session, but mindful eating and why that practice is so important, to carve out that time for eating, because your body thinks that, or not it thinks, but it's activated the same system as when you're sleeping. And then you have your sympathetic system. And your sympathetic system is your fight or flight system. And that's the system that is activated when your body thinks that you're in danger. So if there was let's say a tree was falling and you responded by moving out of the way, you might feel that your heart rate has increased. You might feel that your breath is a bit short. What's happened there is two things. Your body has released cortisol, and what the cortisol does is it gives you increased focus and an energy boost, because you've release of cortisol, and the release of glucose. So the glucose gives you that rush of energy that you're feeling when your sympathetic system is activated. So I gave you this background of the autonomic nervous system because the meditation directly impacts this system. And that's where we begin to understand how the benefits come about, because I'm sure you might have seen it on social media and how meditation has been a very popular topic for the Western world because of this panacea that it's offered. It's offered all of these, releasing or decreasing stress, and how the positive impact on depression, and how it relieves anxiety. And these are very big claims, especially for people who have those conditions. And it's very important to understand what's happening on a physiological, biological level, so that they no longer can seem like these vague, big claims. So I'll address the stress, for example. So how does meditation impact stress? When you're meditating, your body decreases that level of cortisol that's increased when your sympathetic system is activated. So basically what the body is saying, or meditation is saying, that to your body, that you are in fact okay. When we are in stressful situations, when we're moving very quickly and doing a lot at one time, that sympathetic system is activated. And so your body thinks that you're in danger. And so we're releasing this cortisol constantly, which weakens your immune system. And so when you're stressed, you're more prone to illness because your immune system is weakened. And because of that overdrive of the sympathetic system. And meditation and mindfulness practice tells the body that, we are actually okay. Let's reduce that cortisol. And what I'm going to do now is increase the neurotransmitter serotonin. And so serotonin is the neurotransmitter that your body releases when you're sleeping and when you're resting and when you're exercising. So that makes you feel good. And that's how meditation and mindfulness reduces your stress, by impacting the parasympathetic system and bringing that autonomic nervous system into balance again, by reducing cortisol and increasing serotonin. So I know that I have, what I am doing is I'm reestablishing, so I'm saying one fact and then I do repeat it in different variations of sentences because I don't want to be going too quickly. May I ask at this point, do we have any questions or anything to add? Anything that we'd like to say before I move on? Does everything am I making sense? That's a very important question. Does what I'm saying make sense? Okay, cool. All right. So another one is, so this is what I found, when you read the benefits of meditation, it gets you very excited, but then somebody asks you how, especially as a teacher, you're training to be a teacher, people will ask you in and out about what you're saying. So it's so important that you do your research. It's so important that you know what you're saying before, when you say something, try not to, when you read something, make sure that you have read the case studies, read the research. There's so much information online, and speak to fellow teachers, speak to Catherine, Taryn, myself. Make use of the resources that you have whilst you're doing this course, that when you leave, you have enough trustworthy sites and resources to dive into. So for example, there is the understanding that meditation increases your digestion. I mean, that's a big claim. How does meditation improve your digestion? So, and I love this. So what happens is, the basis of meditation is breath work. So when you're taking those deep breaths, your lung capacity is increasing. And when you're increasing that elasticity and the capacity of your lungs, by extension, you're having an impact on the movement of your digestive system. And so there, the movement is increased, or the digestion increases through that movement of breath, or through our breath. And it's such a basic, it makes so much sense. All you have to do is just have a look at the body. Okay, so then the meditation, the claim that meditation increases your focus. So when I first listened to this, I thought, okay, that makes total sense, because after you meditate, you feel calm, and your brain, it brings about clarity so that you can focus. And yes, that does make sense. But actually, physiologically, what's happening is, again, it's to do with your breath work. When you're increasing the capacity of your lungs through meditation, your breath work, your lungs transports oxygen to your brain. And when your brain has more oxygen, you're improving your cognitive functioning. Therefore, you can focus better. So just through that breath work, you're able to gain a more focused perspective. So I've just broken down 3 of the benefits. Meditation obviously also decreases your blood pressure and improves your mental health. What I will do at the end of our session is I will send out a couple of resources, or I might, specifically to what we're speaking about today, I'll make a note of it, because I can send you some of the case studies that I've found, just if you're interested in having a look. I don't know, do you have loads of material? Do you feel like I'll just be adding to what you already have, or would you be interested in me sending you some extra resources? Okay, brilliant. Okay, excellent. So okay, amazing. There's this brilliant research. And you know what? You know why I love this research so much? Because what we're doing here, we're in a very esoteric, spiritual field. And so if we are in a formal setting, or if we're in an education setting or in a corporate setting, so, suddenly you go from being so confident here in this classroom, but then being put into a corporate setting, suddenly you don't have that same confidence, because you feel like you're working with a different group of people, and you absolutely are. And that's exactly why these case studies are so important. There is an 8-week study that was done by Harvard University. I mean, come on, that is an establishment, and that's exactly what we want. And that is an 8-week study to see how meditation impacted the brain, and how this had a positive impact on academic research. And yeah, that gives you confidence. It's not just someone saying something based on an ancient practice. So at this point, are there any questions, or have you been writing down things on the side? I'd love if you had any stories of sharing. Oh yeah, please, Matt.
I was just indicating I was writing down on the side. That's all.
Okay, cool. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to be moving into the gray matter of the brain and how meditation impacts the gray matter. Does anyone know about the gray matter of the brain? Okay, great. Belinda, I see Belinda and Molly. May I ask, just to break up my voice a bit, can I ask you to share what you know? And also, you know what I didn't ask you in the introduction circle is what your occupations are, just in terms of what your background is, so I know where you're coming from. So maybe we can do that as I ask you questions. So Belinda, please.
So I am starting, I used to be a wedding coordinator, and now I am starting a new journey on 1st March Barikaya, which is a retreat center here in the Overberg. So I'm very excited about that. And then just to go back on the grey matter, I am definitely not speaking in any like medical terms. Please don't quote me or anything like that. But I do know, I've read that it helps the grey matter. You can actually build new segments to grey matter or enhance your grey matter in a sense where oh my goodness, I don't know how to put this into words. Just like you're making the healthy grey matter, and it's contributing to just not making your brain bigger, but just making it healthy and regenerating. That's the word. Sorry.
Belinda, thank you. That's exactly it. I'm going to expand on that, but Molly, I did receive your message. You're going to put your video off, but I'd love for you to share your experience or your understanding or definition of what.
So from my side, I understand it as almost like exercising your brain to improve whatever, I don't know, neural pathways or I also don't really have the medical terms to explain it, but that's how I understand it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm so happy that you've said that as well, because that is so important. We are yoga teachers and or will be yoga teachers, and even after, it's so important, and I think this is more of a note to myself than anything else, is to keep the ego in check. Because yes, you will do your training, and yes, in 6 years' time or 10 years' time, you will know more, but it's important to keep attending those courses, keep learning about the body, because it is an incredibly complex and deep structure. And why I say this and what I mean by keeping the ego in check is sometimes when you've said something over and over again, you gain confidence. And that's why I love to ask what participants are doing, because I did a course a couple of months ago and I found myself in teaching a doctor and a psychologist, and they kept me in check and they made sure that I was doing my research and they made sure that I was doing my course. So it's a reminder that you will continue learning, and to keep you true to your word, to keep you not quite on your toes, but to keep you learning. There is an ebook that I will send you by, does anyone know the Mindful Movement website or blog, the Mindful Movement? So this is something that I'll put in the resources that I'll give you. There's a really beautiful explanation of what gray matter is in the brain and what its function is. And I'll give you a breakdown, and I'd love you to, if you do have a moment, to go through this ebook, even if it's just that part on gray matter. So what gray matter does in the body, does anyone know the function of what gray matter serves in the brain? So gray matter is the part of the brain that controls your speech. It's the part of the brain that controls your memory. It's the part of the brain that is your self-control. And what is mind-blowing is that after years of research, it is an evidence-based method. Meditation and mindfulness actually grows the gray matter of your brain. And I know because we've heard this before, we may have read it somewhere, we may have heard it in a documentary, and it almost loses its power. But honestly, if we take a moment to think about that, a practice that we can do as adults can actually change the physiology of our brain. We don't need anything. We don't need special medication, special clothes, special equipment, special time. We don't need anything other than what we have right now to physically change our brains. And I feel that that statement alone needs a moment. You know, when you're, does anyone speak a second language? or is learning a second language. So you know how if you're an adult and you're learning a language, often they'll say, or if you have kids, you might say like, teach your kids that language now because their brains are like sponges. And that is because they have that, that capacity. But what meditation and mindfulness does is it mirrors what our brains are like when we're younger. It grows that part that directly impacts our memory, our capacity to retain information, our capacity to learn another language, and our self-control. So like we were saying, gray matter is connected to the self-control, and that's why psychologists and therapists will recommend meditation or meditation courses to their clients, for the very reason that it increases that gray matter. It strengthens the capacity to control and have self-discipline. Because, and why I emphasize this, and it's because I'm constantly fascinated, and even though I have taught it several times and I have engaged with this material over the last few years, it never ceases to amaze me that it's completely within our control. There's so much. When we're looking for solutions, we look for them externally of us. When we're unwell, we look for, of course, I think to some extent we do understand that our bodies can heal itself. But once it gets to, maybe if you're sick and you have a cough and it's persistent, so after 30 days, you're like, right, I've given that a try. Give me some cough mixture, or what medication can I take? Or where can I look outside of myself for healing? Where can I look outside of myself for a solution? And why the importance of me bringing out the therapists and psychologists recommend meditation, because again, it's an inward practice. It's something that, again, everything that you need is inside you. And I am so aware that can be such an abstract thing, because of course, our homes, our financial stability isn't, quite literally inside us, but our capacity to heal, you take that with a pinch of salt. What we need is we have already. And so this kind of coming back to the internal practice, this internal finding of what we need. This is what differentiates meditation from mindfulness. So I'll touch on this now as an introduction to our mindfulness session. What is the difference? What is the difference between meditation and mindfulness? The basic difference is that meditation is an internal practice, it's an inward practice, whereas mindfulness is you're looking at what's going on around you, you're paying attention to your present moment. And that's not only your emotions or only your feelings or your physical, how you're feeling physical. That is what's going on around you. What does the air feel like? What does the ocean look like today? You're focusing in on your external. So there's this internal versus external, inward versus outward, and the focus of something versus nothing. So with meditation, you're trying to clear your mind. You're trying to not think of anything. Anytime something comes to mind, acknowledge it, and you're putting it to the side. Whereas with mindfulness, it could be an act of mindfulness would be mindful eating. You're focusing on the food that you're eating. You're focusing on what it tastes like, what the colors are, where you got the food from, where it came from, who grew that food. It is a focus on something, as opposed to meditation, a focus on clarity, a focus on nothing. So some versus none. May I ask if anyone has developed or practiced, what are your meditation practices looking like? I'd love us to take a little moment to open it up to the group. If anyone would like to share what their mindful practice is, what their meditation practice is. Anyone? Yeah, Dee. Thanks, Dee.
I sort of spend maybe three days a week, I would say, I go into a meditation. And I normally meditate for about 20 minutes, and I try and do it early in the morning, just before yoga or just after yoga sometimes. I've just found that I did do a meditation course a long time ago, but I've just found that it improves your life, even when you don't know why. Meditation just improves your life. It just makes things better. Things go better with meditation. Yeah.
Thanks, Dee. Annalise.
Sorry. Yeah, I also go in and out of meditation. I like to follow an application called Insight Timer. So yeah, most of my meditation is like mostly guided, and I find that when I do it, I do a lot of it, and then it's like Dee says, like, you know, your life is just so much better. It makes a big difference in your life. And then I fall off the train again and, you know, get stressed again and all that. And then you realize like, oh, you know, like I should get back into it. And then you do, and then everything goes better again. And it's just funny how it works like that. But yeah, I've never tried to do meditation just by myself.
Okay, thank you. Molly?
So I'm going to be honest, because this is what we're here for, to be honest. I really struggle with meditation. I have a very busy mind, busy life, busy everything. So I struggle to sit still. I mean, I don't go to the movies because I can't sit and watch a movie. I can't watch movies with subtitles because I can't sit still enough to watch an entire movie. So I have a little bit of a problem with that, but I try and maintain that. Like I also use, I think everybody knows Headspace. So the app Headspace, that really helps me just to calm down. I also only do guided meditations. I struggle to do meditation without the guidance. Yeah, I think my mindfulness or meditation, I see my meditation as going hiking. I know that's not, you know, sitting still, but walking or hiking, especially with silence. So I'll have earphones in and keep it silent. So yeah, that is where I'm at with the meditation. A bit different.
Molly, I'm so grateful that you said that. And Michaela, before I come to you, I just like to respond to what Molly said, because that's exactly me. That was when I was sitting in my yoga teacher training, and we would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and, you know, do this meditation. It felt I wanted to. I was committed to my training. I wanted to become a teacher, and I felt like this was my biggest hurdle, is that I couldn't relate to this. To the visual of sitting silently on a mountain, or this calm, tranquil, blissful visual that I had of meditation in my head. I couldn't relate to it. It wasn't who I was. And my family, and we'll bring this up in the discussion, how you are viewed by your family, how you are viewed by your friends, and how you view yourself now. And if that's any different to before you started your training. I felt like I couldn't even share this with my family because they didn't know me to be, I couldn't put my name and meditation in the same sentence. But responding to hiking being a meditation and you feeling unclear about that, it absolutely is. It's a movement meditation, because you're focusing on your breath, you're focusing on where you are. Meditation is that mental practice of not being anywhere. You're there in your body in that present moment, and that is meditation. So I'm going to ask a question off of what you've just said now. So if somebody says to you, how am I going to pose this? Sometimes people say that meditation is not for them. Would you, if you relate to this in any way, could you raise your hand? If at any point you related to this, that meditation is not for you. If at any point, in any capacity, you felt that you could relate to the sentence, meditation is not for me. Exactly. So, And that's exactly why we're here. This is where, what's a better way? I couldn't think of a better way. I should probably just have looked up a synonym, but a synonym for demystifying. We're demystifying, I'm putting this in inverted commas, until we find a better word for it, but demystifying meditation. It isn't, we're trying to take away this block, this barrier in between everyday life and modern life and what meditation is. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Molly. Thank you for that. So, Michaela, yes, please. I'd like to hear from you.
I just wanted to say I typed in the group my answer.
Michaela, actually, your voice sounds pretty good. So do you want to go ahead and share that with us verbally?
Does it sound okay? Okay. I set my meditations on and off. I like Nidra and mantra meditation. I've tried Kriya with the Soham meditation. So I find that helps me concentrate sometimes. I usually meditate 15-30 minutes and then I'll do some reading on the Bhagavad Gita afterwards and take some notes and that, yeah.
Thank you. I honestly just have to take a moment to thank you so much, because I had a structure of what I was going to say and suddenly I feel like my whole brain's just going like, you know, in 3 different directions, and I'm wanting to say, share with everyone. So thank you for allowing me to lead this session very intuitively. So Marley, I'm going to read what you've said in the text. I also prefer a slower practice with longer hold for exactly that reason. Okay. And Ruan saying, for mindfulness, I try to live a life with intent. Yes, man, Ruan. I also try to contemplate and apply the yamas and the yamas. I'm sorry if I'm reading that off like a radio host. That's the best I can do. To respond to what we're struggling with when we are meditating, or if you find that it's difficult to meditate without assistance, without guidance, without a track or yoga nidra track. This is, I'm going to start off by saying, use what you need, take what you need and leave the rest behind until you are ready to come back to it, if you are ready to come back to it rather. I've never taken to guided meditation because I get very attached to the voice, and then I'm curious about the person who's reading this to me, and then suddenly I'm thinking about this person and I'm very curious. So I find that the most effective meditation is by myself. And for someone who has and is still managing a monkey mind, that distracted mind, that constantly, that there's something exciting to adventure, to explore, I need meditation for that reason. And I teach meditation and mindfulness because I need it. Because that when I teach it, I hold myself accountable. There is no way that I can teach what I'm teaching and not live it. And that is truly why I am a teacher. There's no other way to be more accountable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be practicing. So basically, I teach so that I can practice. When something I'll share with you, my personal morning practice, and that is anyone familiar with Moby's meditation music? So, you know, Moby is I think he's an electronic DJ, and he has a couple of tracks. They're brilliant. They're incredibly, like, you know, he works with frequencies and it like unlocks something in your heart space. And he, a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2018, released meditation tracks, and they are truly beautiful. I'm going to make a note of sending that to you in your pack. What I do there is, so when I say that I meditate by myself, it's not entirely the whole truth. The whole truth is that I put on a track, and I put on one of Moby's tracks. And what's great about them is that then I'm not setting a timer for anything, or his tracks are between 15 minutes and 25 minutes. So then I know that when that track finishes, then I'm finished. Then I know that I'm complete. And each of these tracks almost have like an energy about them. So when you listen to them, it's either uplifting or calming. They're both for calm and for sleep. And you can feel that when you listen to them. And I would recommend listening to them and feeling how they make you feel. They help keep your focus. I mean, he is a sound technician, a sound engineer. So he understands that the frequencies, and they really do speak to me. And I will end off what I've just said now, is that what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. And that basic understanding will make your life as a teacher and a practitioner so much more relieving. When somebody tells you that something works, when somebody recommends you something, don't feel pressured for that to be your reality. If something doesn't work, say thank you, cheers, I tried it, didn't quite work for me. Be courageous enough to say when something doesn't work for you. Don't force yourself to do something that doesn't work for you. I only learned that experientially in the more recent years. I didn't quite have the courage when I first became a teacher to actually teach that way, or to hold or be true to that. I knew it in my head, but I didn't have the courage to live it yet. That will bring you a lot of peace. We're going to, before I move on, actually, Rowan, did you have something you'd like to share?
Yes, if I may. Something interesting about sound frequencies, because I deal a lot with that, but it's very interesting if you guys want to go play with this. If you can get like a sine wave generator, certain frequencies actually correspond to certain positions on the body, which is very interesting. So the lower you go, it actually is closer to the ground. So something like 40 hertz, which is like at the lower end of the bass frequencies, is kind of like in your stomach. As you move up to like 80 hertz, that's like in your chest. That's usually where they put kick drums and things like that, because it goes doof, 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 doof. And then as you move up with frequencies, so generally here from like 200 hertz to say 5 kilohertz is all the mid-range, which you kind of hear around here. And as you move up from 16 kilohertz to beyond like human hearing, which would have been like 20 kilohertz, as you actually move up, you actually get the experience of hearing sound, but above your head, which is a very odd sensation, especially if it's beyond like your hearing. So you can do like a listening test. As we get older, we obviously lose range. But like once it goes out of your hearing range, you actually start feeling the vibration of the frequencies above your head, which is a very interesting experience. So yeah, I just wanted to share that when you said about sound frequencies.
Sweet, Rowan, thank you so much. I know that you said in the beginning when you introduced yourself that you work with music, if I'm correct in saying so. So that's also if I may say this, like if you have any recommendations, send them in the group. Share your knowledge with your fellow trainees. There is, in touching or returning to the struggles of meditation, when you are sitting or about to practice and these thoughts come up, naturally there will be resistance. There will be resistance to sitting, and immediately your mind will go wandering. Why? Why does this happen? It's rooted in fear, a fear of, there's this quote from Nelson Mandela. I never understood it, but I was drawn to it, but I didn't understand it. He says, and I'm going to paraphrase him here, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's not our fear that most frightens us, but it's not our darkness that most frightens us, but our light. And that's my answer to why we are distracted when we sit down. It's the running from the light, because we're in a spiritual approach to this fear. We're scared of that expansion. We're scared of the growth. We're scared of what that would mean, and perhaps it's the work behind it, or what will come from it. But when that happens, when you're meditating, to return to yourself and to say that it's okay. Often we respond to those thoughts with frustration, with anger, maybe not anger, but definitely frustration. You're like, oh man, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks. Why am I still getting distracted? Don't let that be your tangent. Accept the thought for what it is and return to where you are. And it's okay. It's okay. You're returning to yourself. I like to literally just say that it's okay. And I just come back to myself. Literally just those two words, it's okay. And I find that really calming. there is this, so we're moving more into the philosophical section of today's session, and that when we're sitting in that, I like to, you know how we learn about the 3 parts in yoga, it's your body, your mind, and your soul. And there's this, you know, there's this, the separation of your mind and your body. When we're coming, so there's this idea of your mind being separated from your body. And there is, sometimes our mind is looked at as an enemy. Our mind with our distracting thoughts, the monkey mind analogy isn't a very positive one. When we have negative thoughts or doubts about ourselves, is this separate part of ourselves that isn't very friendly. And meditation is the practice of befriending your mind. It's refocusing or reshifting the mind from being the enemy to rather a friend. And so when you sit down, I literally say this to myself. I'm like, you know, hi. I literally just sit down and say hi, because I give myself, I'm very much of an extrovert. So I give everyone my energy. I give everyone my attention, and I'm always, you know, very social. And we very willingly, and I feel like I speak on behalf of a lot of Cape Townians. I feel like it's partly because of our climate. We feel like, you know, we have absorbed the sunniness. And so suddenly we feel like that is our responsibility and our duty in life, to be the sun to everyone else. And yes, that can be the truth, but you also deserve the energy that you, and the attention that you so willingly give to everyone else. So when you're sitting down, that's for you. That's for you to get to know yourself better. Because when we're not listening to outside voices, when we're not listening to what's going on outside or what people are telling us is the right thing, we can actually listen to what we actually feel. To give you an example, so the rest of the next 5 minutes are going to be quite anecdotal. I used to think that I liked the color yellow, and I do love the color yellow, and I kind of went by this avidly that my favorite color was yellow, because I thought that you can only, by extent, the word favorite means you can't have 2 favorites. A favorite is one, but you can. So I thought that I could only have one. So every time anyone asked me, yellow was my color. But I tuned into myself and I listened, and that I don't actually have a favorite color. I like many colors, and it totally depends on my mood, the situation, the circumstance. We like more than one thing. We don't have this limitation. And so that meditation unlocks that for you. When you're actually listening to yourself, you can listen to what your truth is. And sometimes we think we know what our truth is until we listen a bit closer. When we say no to what's happening outside, and we can just, we can listen to something we've tuned out or just tuned down so long ago. And the more we practice that, the louder that voice becomes, the more courageous we can be in speaking our own truth. In returning to speaking about the frustrations surrounding forming a practice of meditation, I like to use the analogy of training for a marathon. If you decided today that you were going to train for a marathon, you wouldn't expect tomorrow to run a marathon, nor would you expect to be able to run a marathon next week, or in 2 weeks' time, or in 4 weeks' time, because the minimum required period for training for a marathon is 12 weeks. And when we apply this analogy to, our brain is a muscle, very much like our legs, our arms, our shoulders, our hands, and so deserves the same amount of time. And we can release this frustration when we bring this analogy to mind. When we're forming a practice of mindfulness, when we're forming a practice of meditation, remember that 12-week training for a marathon. You're not going to get it right immediately. And once you do train for the 12 weeks, if you do form a solid practice for 12 weeks solidly, you put that time in it every day. You are sitting down for 30 minutes and you get it right and you nail it. And then you may not meditate for a few more, let's say you don't meditate for 4 weeks. When you return to your practice, again, to bring that analogy to mind, you're not going to return to where you left off. It doesn't quite work that way. Your brain is a muscle and needs to be treated as such. When we invite that kindness into our practice, we allow our muscles to relax into the reality. When we invite that gentleness, that kindness, how we would treat someone we love, suddenly, when you're holding on to something, another analogy, when you're planting a seed, you wouldn't dig up that seed to check if it's growing. You would leave it. it's not going to grow if you continue to check on it every day. And that's where I would recommend inviting kindness into your practice. And I know that this word can seem so passive. It can feel so not substantial enough, but kindness towards yourself, especially in your practice, is solid because you're encouraging your own growth. When you're holding on to something and when you have frustration in your practice, you're holding back your progress, you're holding back your growth. It feels it's like a cage on your growth, you know, that frustration. And when you release that frustration towards yourself, you allow breathing room. So the last thing I'd say with approaching your practice is what I said in the beginning about a sacred practice. So when we look at meditation for what it is, so I'm saying two different things there. Initially I said because of it having this word sacred, the word sacred has such a weight to it, it has such a preciousness to it. There's like an ancient connotation there, so it makes it almost foreign. But at the same time, in demystifying it, in making meditation more accessible, think of sacredness in the way where you approach the practice with gentleness, again with kindness. I see that we have a couple of messages in the chat. So ahimsa means kindness to yourself as well. Yes, Rowan, exactly. Now we have 8 minutes left. We have 8 minutes left. Okay. Okay, I'm going to say I'm going to share my personal definition, and then I'd like to go into a discussion. I think we do. Taryn's going to come in at 1:30, but we still have a bit of leeway room because I'd like to open this up to you, and I have questions for you. Okay, my personal definition for what mindfulness is and what it brings to me and what it means to me and why I know I need it so much or why I love it so much is for me, it's the practice of going inside my brain, I know we say going inside the body, but there's the softness. It's like a safe haven. It's a safe space where especially in the lives that we are living so externally all the time, and we're looking for solutions and validation externally. But there is this safe space inside our bodies, and I find that through meditation. So in simple, meditation is that going inside the center of my brain to that safe, soft space where I feel good and I feel like me. And with that, that concludes. I'm going to conclude our session because I'd really love to open up a discussion because I have some questions for you. So before I go into my own questions, does anyone have anything to add before I ask? Just on what we've said, did anyone write down any questions, or have you been asking them as we've been going on through the session? Okay, so any questions? Raise hand if we have a question. So we have Michaela. Okay, yeah, Michaela, may I ask you to share with us, please?
You mentioned like just a general outline of your morning routine. Do you mind sharing that, your meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, of course. So it's also very seasonal. I forgot to mention that, and that's why I love the discussion because so much comes up. So truly, in winter, I have a solid practice, and I live in London, but I'm visiting South Africa, my family now, for a couple of months, and I feel like my meditation practice just goes right out the window, and that's when I have to invite integrative practices, and that's why mindfulness comes into play, especially in summer. So the basic response there is that my meditation is very seasonal. So now I found myself reestablishing as the sun is rising a bit later. I find myself staying at home. Normally in the peak of summer, I don't want to be meditating the first thing I get up in the morning. The first thing I want to be doing is going to the ocean, going onto the mountain. But this morning, I got up, and the night prior, I will lay out my mat, I'll lay out my pillow, I'll put my candle out, my incense, my lighter or my matches so that it's ready for the morning, so that when I get out of bed, there is, I'm going straight to my mat, and there's no question about it. I'll have my music, I'll choose the track. Sometimes I wake up and I want to choose a different track, but most likely it's going to be Moby. If I know that I only have 15 minutes, I'll click on the 15-minute track, and that's literally all I have to do. Is I get up, I do tidy myself up. I don't like to just roll out of bed and like be in my pajamas, so I might put on something over me, because again, I like, meditation is a sacred practice. I don't just want to be like, on my mat. So 20 minutes, 15 minutes in the mornings. And in summer, my meditation is outside. It's a movement meditation. It's in the sea and on the mountain. Michaela, do you have any, I feel like, have I answered that? I kind of expanded in different directions there, but did I actually answer the question?
Yes, you
Okay.
definitely did. Thank you.
Okay, sweet. Now, my questions, do we have any other questions before I ask you some of the questions I have for you? Okay, so the first, I would love to hear about your first experience of, if you remember your first experience of meditation. What was that like? What was your struggles? What were your challenges? What are your current challenges with meditation? Yeah, please, Nicole.
I remember struggling quite a bit, like the first time, just with closing my eyes, because like I sleep with my eyes closed, with my eyes open. So like I was like, no, it's like the stressful thing that like I can't even close my eyes like in a room full of people. I get like stressed out. And then I remember that was like when I was much younger, and like through the times, it's been progressively like easier and better, and I've been able to like relax a lot more. And then yeah, just through mindfulness practices as well, just like improve a lot and settle, I don't know, easier, because you also find your mind, I guess it's normal, hustle and bustle and things like that. And also the phone, I struggle a lot to like leave my phone in the other room and like not touch it and not be like bothered with, is someone messaging me? Do I need to like go and do something? But no one's messaging me really. Anyway.
Nicole, thank you. Such value there. Flip, thank you so much. With the phone thing, and that I'm responding to Michaela's question here as well too, what the practice is. We need to totally relook in reestablishing a relationship with our minds through meditation. This is hand in hand with reestablishing a relationship with our phones. We totally need to relook at how we're living with our phones. It's definitely not the enemy, in the same way that our minds has been looked at the enemy. And I start to think like, no, I need to keep my phone this way, or like I need to limit my time. There's a balance there. Your phone there's a richness. It's a world into communication. It connects you to your work. It connects you to your finances. It's a tool of abundance, truly. So it's definitely not the enemy. It's how we have used this tool. That needs to change. That needs to be reworked. So my phone, in responding to Michaela's question, sorry, I try for an hour before bed and an hour after waking. I find waking, it's easy. I don't need to do that. It's more going to bed where I feel like I need to. It's my space to communicate with people. But try at least 20 minutes and 20 minutes or even start with 5 minutes, start with 15 minutes. But that goes hand in hand. Reestablishing a relationship with our minds starts with reestablishing a relationship with our phones. And Nicole, kudos to you on being able to close your eyes, even though you don't close your eyes when you sleep. To be able to do that, that's enormous. So yeah, well done. And I think Clara, I'm just going to read what we have that works for me too. Clara, is this what you have to say? Do you want to say it yourself?
Yeah, if it works. No, I was just thinking about, for me, what worked in the beginning is also actually related to the phone. Now we have it in the chat right now, but actually putting an alarm, say for, 3 hours or something. And then in some way I was using the phone, or like I kind of did a task with the phone, and then it was easier for me to put it away and not have that urge to like look at it all the time.
I feel like we can definitely touch on this in the next session, about reestablishing that relationship with our phones. Yeah, I find that's something that works is if you dedicate space to replying to messages. So a half an hour in the morning maybe, and a half an hour in the evening. And then of course, there are logistical texts that need to go, that you need to be replying continuously throughout the day, because that impacts what you're doing in that day. But mostly if there are texts to do with meeting family members or gatherings, things like that, you can dedicate it in that half an hour. So we can start reworking a very positive relationship with our phones. So do we have any more responses to struggles and first experiences of meditation before I go into the second? Hi, T. So yeah, anyone would like to share their first experiences with meditating or struggles, things that they find difficult? Okay, no, that's great, because I do have, So Michael, this question, how do we feel about talking about meditation to our family, in a public space or at work? How do you feel about talking about meditation, mindfulness practices, encouraging it or recommending it to people at work, in a public space, or to your family? My question here really is behind it, is there any resistance? Yeah, okay, Michaela, exactly. So I think, sorry, Lara, did you have your hand raised? Okay, yeah, would you like to share with us?
I love it. I want to thank you for being so passionate about it, because watching you talk about meditation and mindfulness, it's like looking in the mirror. Because when I'm with my friends and my family, I'm raging about it. And I'm trying to get them to do it. I'm giving them mindfulness practice ideas and sending them things. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And it's so nice to see someone so passionate about it. And just, yeah. So I'm all for promoting meditation and mindfulness, and it's big. Everyone should be doing it.
Lara, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel you already, that's such a strong foundation. I mean, even I asked this question, and Michaela, I totally resonate with your response there, because although I am passionate about it, which I am, but also let's take a look at this context. I'm confident and passionate now because I'm in a group of trainees who are learning to learn more, or wanting to learn more about meditation and mindfulness. So I wanted to open up conversation about, especially in corporate spaces, where because this is something that you might feel, if you're wanting to teach after your training, you might be doing this for your personal practice. But talking about meditation and the benefits and how it can help in a corporate masculine capitalist sector is, that needs a whole nother session as to how to approach this and why this is important, because that's probably the sector that, needs it the most. So to respond, Michaela, yes, I did feel awkward. I definitely did feel awkward as well. That's also why I asked the question. So Alice has something to say in Ruan. So I'm not going to read it. I'm actually going to open this up. So we'll end off with Ruan. I'll start with Alice, and then we'll take it over to Taryn. Alice, would you like to share with us what you
Sure, I'll try. It's dinner time here, so it's a bit loud. But yeah, I was just saying, we've tried to incorporate this with my kids who are 6 and 4. I think partly they've also seen me meditating, but there's some really fun kids guided meditations, or even more just like fun interaction, like sit down, we do like breathing games, which is fun. But yeah, definitely at work, it's super awkward. When my previous job, I used to take 15 minutes, sometimes around lunch, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes it really just varied during the day. But I would just tell my colleagues I'm taking a self-care break. And that was usually fine.
Thanks so much. So normalizing this conversation outside of contexts that make us feel comfortable, outside of this classroom, for example, taking that, and also that opens you up to a different perspective. I used to be scared of bringing it up and that potential awkward conversation because I felt like I needed to convince someone else. But you don't need to convince anyone else. They think what they think and you think what you think, and that's okay. Because when you open yourself up to an opposing opinion, that's true. That's growth. That's true growth, because you're accepting where they're coming from and you're trying to understand why they think the way they think. Okay, so Ruan, yes, Ruan, let's hear what you have to say. I'm not going to read your text out. Your message.
Okay. What I was saying was more a response to what Laura was saying. I remember when I started going to yoga classes and really getting into it, somebody brought up the phrase, you have your friends and then you have your yoga friends. It's like they don't mix or intermingle at all. And it is kind of true to a certain degree, but, you know, as it's become more important to me, you know, living this path and stuff, I have started sharing it with people around me. And I guess, you know, some people either stick around for it and some people don't. So yeah, it's not an issue.
Preach, Ruan, preach. Okay, so I think we are 36 minutes now. T, I'm just gonna take another 2 minutes. Michaela, you said, I think as humans we're so resistant to change. So bringing up things like meditation are not welcomed as much. I feel like there's also a weird vibe around it and people think that it's a fairy world or hippie world. Yes. And you know what, this is why when I talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, when I talk about the theory, I'm like, yes, let's talk about the autonomic nervous system. Let's talk about the parasympathetic system, because this, and the case studies that are done, especially by establishments like big universities and corporates in America, they're funding this research because they see the value in it. And that gets me excited because suddenly it's no longer in the esoteric field. Suddenly it's no longer in the esoteric sphere, and it's more substantial, it's respected.
I feel like the view's growing and changing now.
Thanks, Michaela. Okay, Clara, I found that non-terming concepting made it easier for me to talk about it at work. Calling it a pause or a check-in or something made it a lot easier for me to talk about with not interested people around me. Cool. Guys, thank you for your messages. I'm going to take screenshots of them. I'm just going to take another 2 minutes. Thank you for the session. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking notes. I want you to, Annalise, I know I didn't read out your thing and I didn't give you a platform just now, but write that down and we can start with that in our next session. I want our sessions to be as engaging as possible. So, you know, take me on. If you hear something that I said that you don't resonate with, question me, challenge me, go back, do your research, come back next session and tell me, you know what, actually I looked at that and I don't know if I agree with that so much. It's not a debate, but a discussion. There is a curiosity, but definitely don't accept information for what you've been told. Take what you've been told, yes, learn from it, grow from it, but you know, question it as well. This is your education. This is this training that you're doing. It's the foundation. It's like the tip of the iceberg. Everything else is up to you, you know, where you take this training. So what I started with saying is thank you. Thank you so much. I will see you in a couple of weeks. If anyone has any parting words, any parting anecdotes before I hand over to T. All right, sweet. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mon. Thanks for setting such a relaxed mood. Thank you.
Enjoy your session, Taryn. I will speak to you very soon. Oh, Taryn, just one thing before I go, actually. I see that I started the recording. I see that it's still recording. Normally, I had the option of pausing or stopping, but now I no longer have that option. So I'm not sure what's happening.
I have the option.
Amazing. So
suddenly I'm in control again. There we go. That question.